This video is going to be a film study look at the ridiculous performance that Aidan Hutchinson put up in the Lions' 20-16 loss to the Bucs in Week 2 at home. A disappointing loss for sure. I'll get into some of the reasons. The film actually came out really early today, Monday, so it's been nice to be able to try to check that out. I wanted to get this one out as soon as possible to give me a little bit more time to explore some of the reasons the offense might be struggling. So I have not looked at the offense film yet at all. I am going to parlay this video a little bit into talking about a player who I think played spectacular yesterday, and maybe his stats don't stack up with other players around the league. That's Derek Barnes. I'm going to try to use him in a string relationship with Aidan Hutchinson on some of these sacks, but focusing on Aidan Hutchinson, 5.5 sacks so far through 2 games, 9 quarterback hits, 5 TFLs. They only have him credited for 1 forced fumble yesterday. I thought there were 2. Maybe the second one isn't attributed to him. James Houston IV did play, but Barnes over there to the boundary playing edge defender / Sam, I thought looked really great. And I think that some of the plays he made, some of the positions he was put in, kind of opened things up a little bit for Aidan Hutchinson on the other side. Of course, the matchup, the individual skills, technique, and burst that Hutchinson has, is the primary factor. This is the first possession, and I'm only showing you the end zone angle here. Check out Barnes to the bottom side. And this is something that I actually talked about in one of the previews for this game. Barnes is going to drop out here. And look at Baker Mayfield, where he's reading. This is the Bucs' first possession. Obviously, they ended up down here because of the DPI on Arnold. Mayfield is certainly reading over here to the boundary, and look at Barnes' helmet. He's sitting underneath the route. He's not just dropping lazily and looking at the quarterback. It's not always lazy to look at the quarterback. There's a time and place for everything. But because he's in position in between the route, Baker Mayfield has to hold the ball. Why is he between the route? Because he's looking at the route. He knows what the route is. As a result, Baker Mayfield holds it. Hutchinson stunts underneath, gets the forced fumble. Huge play, loss of 8 yards. The Bucs were very fortunate. The Lions maybe unlucky that the ball didn't bounce backwards or in some other direction where potentially a Lions player could have recovered it. Bucs go up 3-0 there after the interception on the first throw of the game, for Jared Goff. Another sack. This one is split between Hutchinson and Onwuzurike, I thought Onwuzurike looked great, and correct me if I'm wrong, I thought he had a split sack in Week 1 as well. So maybe later in the week we'll do a video on him, but unblocked, totally unblocked. Well, why? Because of Barnes, where he's lined up. Barnes is lined up as the edge defender to potentially rush, so the tackle is going to step to him. And the Lions are bringing the double inside linebacker blitz, so the guard is stepping to Rodriguez. Onwuzurike totally unblocked, splits the sack with Hutchinson, who gets on a top side rush against the right tackle. It's a very wide alignment, don't get me wrong, but the force that he plays with, look at the pad level here. He's 6'6", 6'7". I think he was 6'6" and 5'8", something like that at the combine. So he calls himself 6'7". I don't know what you call him, but for him to play at that pad level at that moment of impact with the right tackle, regardless of who's out there, he's just walking the guy back at this point and then sheds him and releases to the top side. Second sack in 2 possessions. Really ridiculous. Now, the Bucs did get a field goal to go up 6-0, 6 minutes into the game. Same play, end zone angle. We're going to relate this to Barnes. Again, we're going on double inside linebacker blitz here with Rodriguez and then Anzalone folding over the top. But look at the communication between these guys. This is these 3 guys right here communicating. Maybe Terrion Arnold is hearing it as well and confirming it. Why? Because Barnes is taking the running back, Arnold is taking the tight end. So it's just obfuscation, meaning they're hiding their true intentions from a coverage standpoint so that Baker Mayfield doesn't know who's going to be open, what the coverage is going to be. Additional to that, this is exactly where Baker Mayfield is looking here, to the left side of the screen. Has to hold on to the football, and Hutchinson and Onwuzurike get there for the sack. Again, 2 sacks, 2 possessions. I guess that's a split sack and a half. Speed rush, 3rd possession, up to the top side. Just an absolute win by Aidan Hutchinson against the right tackle. So he's given him a bunch of different looks here. relating this to Barnes for a moment, and I will do a extended film study video about his play. I think the Lions have got to look at playing him more often in some of these run pass situations. Not a clean stunt there at all between him and Rodriguez, but Hutchinson, because of his individual brilliance, is able to win to the top side. This is same play, end zone angle. I believe we are halfway through the first quarter here. You do have a tightly aligned tight end. Kendall Vildor is on at right side corner. Wide alignment by Hutchinson up at the top, and just an easy swipe down on the outside hand of the tackle. Clean win. I think the announcer identified it extremely well. It was Mark Shareth, I think, that this is just a total mismatch and that these guys needed to release to the outside to help, meaning the running backs. And that can limit the passing game. It can also open up blitzers away from Hutchinson, which is what I think the Lions are trying to do here with some of these times where they're dropping Barnes out and they're bringing one or two of the inside linebackers away from Hutchinson. When I said it's a string later on, that's what I meant. I think it's related what they're doing on one side versus the rush on the opposite side. They're relying on the running back, or excuse me, anticipating the running back stepping out to Hutchinson, but the Bucs just wouldn't do it. So he ends up with his third sack or involved in his third sack in 3 possessions. Really ridiculous if you ask me. This is 4th possession. This is the touchdown to Godwin up to the top side of our screen. Hutchinson's not on here. So it's just interesting. 2 of the more important plays in the game that happened, in fact, both touchdowns, he's not on the field. You'll see, by the way, the QB draw to Baker Mayfield, which I think is, it's a great play call by the Bucs. It's very anomalous for Baker Mayfield to be back there and them to run QB draw. But Hutchinson isn't on the field for either one of the touchdowns. It's very unusual and maybe somewhat random. It's motion across the field out of 11 personnel. And I think this is Robertson is going to kind of hedge to the outside because Godwin's making it look like he's going to block. He's making it look like this is a swing pass to number 7 and he's going to block. You can see the orientation of Godwin's body looking at Robertson. Robertson stepping downhill. It ends up being a wheel. Just a fake block and a wheel up the left sideline. And the coverage here by the Lions is just not coordinated to that top side at all, with number 1 running a little in cut and then Godwin on the fake block and then the wheel. You guys are losing part of that illustration there. My apologies. I'll wait till it widens up. So you can see that Evans' route has brought him to the inside. That's going to bring Arnold as well, whether he should be there or not. I don't think he should be. There are some rules, a lot of them. If you have the flat, you have the wheel. So if you have the flat coverage as the nickel defender, you have the wheel as well. That's just a rule that for certain coverages and certain defenses. On the motion, this becomes a 3-by-1 formation. On the backside, you're certainly locked up in man. Carlton Davis III on the tight end. So I think you've got something to discuss and listen to those guys talk about in terms of that coverage. Robertson is being put in conflict there by the potential swing pass and the block from Godwin. Basically, it's a 2-on-1 out there at that point. And Arnold essentially goes with the post, the skinny post. The wheel ends up being wide open. End zone angle, same play. You can see what I mean, that Hutchinson is not on the field. You've got Pascal over here on the opposite side. So no pass rush has developed on the outside. On the inside, I think it's Wingo is there. A little bit too late. 41-yard touchdown. Godwin had a huge day, 7 catches. Otherwise, no one really did much of anything. This is the interception by Branch on the ensuing possession, the 5th. Lions making it look like man with the inside linebacker chasing the running back out to quads. When I say quads, what I mean is it's 4 receivers to one side. Running back comes into the backfield, back into the backfield, and Rodriguez goes with him. So that's what I mean when they say they're making it look like man. Branch in the middle of the field, low hole, free safety is Joseph deep. I like that alignment. If you're going to play man, I really like that alignment. Allowing Branch, and Branch can play man too on certain guys, but gives him the opportunity to read the quarterback. And in this case, you've got 2 routes, one on the high side, one on the low side. Maybe these 2 routes are too close together. And this is an easy pick for Branch. He's just reading the quarterback's eyes, adjusting to the routes that he can feel or sense. Maybe he's getting an in-in call from some of the guys on the top side. I like that and you can do it now because if you have Rodriguez on the field and Anzalone, those are 2 good coverage linebackers. Anzalone unfortunately went out with a concussion later on in the game. You guys have to let me know if you've heard anything about the status of that. This is Davis on Evans. Robertson on Godwin, and I think it's McMillan up to the top side being guarded by Arnold. So you've got three guys there who can play man coverage, and a beautiful pick, high pointing the ball by Branch. One of the few mistakes that Mayfield made on the day. Same play, end zone angle. Isn't really related to Hutchinson. My apologies. This is a sack. I'm sorry. I thought I had the end zone angle. This is him on the sixth possession. We're now in the third quarter, and they've started to chip him a little bit. You get the running back trying to chip him to the inside. Doesn't matter. Hutchinson still wins to the top side. I call the top side the outside, and it's just a simple swipe down, chop down on the outside arm, and just slow feet and slow hips by the right tackle completely. Absolute mismatch. I don't think the Bucs did a good job at all through 2, 3 quarters, whatever, of accounting for that disparity in physical talent. Same play, all 22 angle. Here's Hutchinson. The chip is going to be by the running back. He's not going to be able to do this every week, for sure. But against some of these teams that want to throw the ball a lot, I think Aidan Hutchinson's going to put constant pressure. I mean, that's what he did last year. I think when he was completely healthy, starting in week 1, had I think maybe 5 or 6 week stretch where he wasn't producing as many sacks, but still was getting some pressures. I think this is what you're going to see in terms of constant pressure if you don't deal with him from a chip or a double standpoint. This one is the 8th possession. We're later. This one's actually a triple team. So Aidan Hutchinson is down. I don't know if I necessarily want to call it a triple team in reality, but he gets chipped initially by the tight end. And then after dealing with the tight end to the top side, the high side, he's now got the tackle and the running back fronting him. The running back releases outside, doesn't touch him, so I can't call it a triple team. It's Baker Mayfield's scramble. And the unfortunate thing about this play is they're giving a lot of attention to Hutchinson. No one else is able to get to Baker Mayfield. Now, part of that could be the coverage that you're playing, but I feel like in a zone drop back structured setting, these guys have got to be able to make some of these tackles. It's the routes end up pulling Carlton Davis across. We're talking about here. And then the running back, who again fronted Hutchinson for a moment, released to the outside, and he's picked up by Anzalone. A little bit random that it ends up being so wide open, but I think that you've got to be able to make this tackle, Malcolm Rodriguez. It's still going to be a first down probably at that point where he misses that tackle. I think Baker Mayfield's right there at the line to gain, or maybe he's already got it. Baker Mayfield is not a incredible athlete from a quarterback standpoint, and I think Malcolm Rodriguez has just got to do a better job than that. Carlton Davis III, Anzalone kind of got pulled away from it, if you ask me, just because of the random nature of the way the play shook down. And then unfortunately on the QB draw, you've got, I think Pascal is the edge defender here, and I think that's Onwuzurike. So you've got a heavy alignment in by the Lions. They're in base defensive personnel here. And I think that I've got the Bucs in 11. Not necessarily the reason why this quarterback draw worked, but you've got a running back, a tight end, and then 3 receivers in McMillan, Godwin, and Evans. So really interesting that they responded to 11 personnel with their base defense. Is it related to the touchdown? I'm not sure. A very shocking play call to me. Finally, I think this is actually a split sack. I misidentified earlier and said Onwuzurike was credited with a split sack. I think he could have been. Here he actually is with Hutchinson. They're going to chip him one more time. This is a 3rd and 7, by the way, 9th possession. So we are about 10 or 11 minutes left in the 4th quarter. You got Barnes down here to the boundary. Anzalone lined up over the tight end. They're motioning. One receiver down. They've chipped Hutchinson, initially to deal with the right tackle. Onwuzurike executing a stunt along with McNeil. McNeil ends up being clean. End zone angle, here's what I'm talking about. So because of Hutchinson's alignment, he's being chipped here. There's actually 2 Lions helmets there, but they're running a stunt between these 2 guys. McNeil and Onwuzurike. You can see McNeil has picked the center, and Onwuzurike 91 is folding around. And this happens often where you kind of ricochet off the center, the guard adapts, and then you, as the picker, end up being clean. McNeil's the picker. Almost a ball that ends up in the Lions' hands. I think there's a fumble there. I don't know. I guess they don't. I guess they didn't see as much contact due to Hutchinson to cause the fumble. It's because he runs into his offensive lineman. The ball certainly pops out, but 2 times the ball's on the ground. And the Lions, for whatever reason, there's just nobody around. A missed tackle on Baker Mayfield on a somewhat random scramble. Really, and then the quarterback draw catches him by surprise. Really ruin, I think, what could have been very close to being a dominant day defensively. A 41-yard touchdown to Godwin is not a great play to give up. Godwin's a talented dude. I think he's number 2 all time for the Bucs in terms of touchdown catches. So he's a high-quality receiver. But those are plays, I think, that can be closed off. You don't have to give up that touchdown to Godwin. He's absolutely wide open. Someone has to cover it better. My suspicion is it's Arnold up to the top side. Number 1. Number 2, Hutchinson happens to get tired chasing Mayfield on the scramble, isn't on the next play. If he is on, is he going to stop it? Probably not. It's just interesting to me that the 2 touchdowns that were scored is when your best defensive player was not on the field. Nonetheless, it's a day that he'll remember. I'm sure his family will remember. You as Lions fans should, myself included. It's a fun film to watch. I'll probably move over to more offense-related film for Monday and Tuesday, to be real with you, and talk about what I think the Bucs were doing, how physical they were in trying to limit space for the Lions receivers. Somewhat similar conceptually to what the Rams did in Week 1. Appreciate you guys' time, man. If you enjoyed the film study video and the plays that I picked to kind of illustrate how overwhelming Aidan Hutchinson was against the Bucs in Week 2, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.